we discussed in the last class?
Said DNS.
DNS. So we need to start with the DNS. We discussed the elastic cache. That was the last topic. And we are going to start with the DNS services in our today's class. So let me share the screen so that we can start with the DNS. Okay. So but we started with the DNS, and the DNS is stands for the domain name system. So domain name system, this is kind of repository, but I treat it as a single page. The easiest way to understand the DNS is take a single sheet of paper, okay, divide that sheet into two equal halves. On one side of the sheet you start writing all the IP addresses like this address, okay. Write 50 IP addresses in one half of the sheet, and corresponding to that, each IP is responding to which particular website start writing their names. Okay. Now the table that you will be generating will be called as the DNS. Of course, this is the very easiest and the simplistic example. It is not that simple, but the basic funda of DNS system is the same. That you're going to have a table. Each website is going to correspond to a different IP addresses like Instagram.com, Facebook.com, Flipkart.com, Myntra.com. We every time we remember these names because these are easier to remember. And if I'll ask you, tell me the IP addresses for the Flipkart, Myntra, Facebook, Instagram, probably we will not be able to guess it because these numbers are difficult to learn and remember. This is one of the reasons we need to have the DNS system. So websites are going to be mapped with the DNS systems, and we are going to get it from there. So which translates the human friendly hostname into the machine IP address. So this simply translate the website names to the IP addresses. That's a simple purpose. So DNS is the backbone of the internet. So without DNS servers, you will not be able to access a lot of things. So 99% of the things we do not remember the exact IP addresses. We refer them using the DNS. Okay. So DNS uses hierarchical naming structure. Hierarchical means, so everything, if you'll see www.example.com, it is going to have a lot of points that you need to understand. Www is World Wide Web. So .com is one of the extensions. So this is one of the another part of uh, the DNS name. So .com, example.com, www.example.com, api.example.com. So these are a few of the examples for the DNS name. Okay. So we have seen this earlier as well. So how you can categorize this? So domain registrar is going to be one of the important file. Domain registrar, where it is going to keep a record of every domain along with their register. So Amazon Route 53 is one of the service that is going to be provided by the AWS. Now someone can answer why it is written as 53, why not 54, 52 or any other number? Because this 53 is one of the earlier previous versions of the domain DNS that is being provided by the Amazon. ठीक है. तो ये जो number है 53, this was used in the previous version. So from that version they have taken forward and renamed the server to route 53. Okay. So that is the reason. So GoDaddy, like there are another different third party companies that can provide you with the DNS names. Now DNS records can be of two types or basically multiple types. So single A or AAAA. But a single A will correspond to IPv4 addresses. So any website that is going to have IPv4 address will be referred with a single A, and any website that will be having their IP address with IPv4, sorry, IPv6, in that case we are going to have a AA 4 times A. Then we have a C name, NS. So these are a few of the important points that we'll be discussing in our today's session. Okay. uh, Give me a second. Okay. Now the zone file contains DNS records. So multiple zones are there. See, DNS records, zone, name server, top level domain, second level domain. So these are the things that you'll be able to understand within this diagram. So I'll explain this entire diagram to you, how things are working. So as of now, these are the parts and their explanation is given. Local names, the name server is going to have the queries like authoritative and non-authoritative. Top level domains can have the .com, .us, .in, .gov. Second level can be amazon.com, google.com. So these are just a bifurcation of the domains names that are given. HTTP is the protocol, API is the domain name, www is a subdomain. Then we'll have a SLD, TLD, second level domain, top level domain is there. Then this .com is going to be the root. Okay. Now coming on to this very important slide that we left in the last class. So we are going to discuss this one. Okay. Let's try to understand. This is a web server, and this web server is going to have an IP address. Let's suppose 9.10.11.12. But if you're able to understand this entire diagram, you'll have all the concepts of the DNS very clear. Okay. So listen carefully. Let's suppose there's a server, web server, and its IP. This is a public IP address. Okay. Anyone can access this. The IP address is 9.10.11.12, and this server is going to host the website. Let it be example.com. Okay. So there is a server is going to have a public IP address, and that public IP address can host a website that is example.com. Now let's suppose there is a client. This client wants to access example.com. Okay. So there is a client, and this is TTL. It is written. What is TTL? So TTL is the point, the end point where it is going to access for the service. So web browser. So this is me sitting at my place. I want to access example.com. So you want to access the example.com. So the very first point, beta, I cannot go directly to this. I don't know what is example.com. I do not know the IP address of example.com. Okay. So first thing that I'm going to do is I'll move to the local DNS server. Okay. So this local DNS server is assigned and managed by your company or assigned by ISP dynamically. So service provider like Airtel, Vodafone, any other local DNS server that will be having, my request is going to that particular local DNS server. I'll say that, hey, do you know what is example.com? I have included the question mark here. Okay. So I have included the question mark here. So this local DNS server will say that, oh, I do not know what is what is this example.com. If this local DNS server know, it will reply. But let's suppose this local DNS server say that, okay, I do not know what is this example.com, but I can take you closer to this example.com. How it will take me closer? This local DNS server might know what is this .com. Okay. So this local DNS might know only about .com server. So this will forward our queries to the next root DNS server, because in root DNS server will have all the domain and all their root directories will be stored. So this local DNS server will again forward the request to the root DNS server, and it will say that, hey, do you know what is example.com? Okay. Now this root DNS server, this is managed by ICANN. This is the body that is going to manage it. And this root DNS server, if it has the IP address for example.com, it will return. Otherwise, it will. I have got. So Ishita is going to join. Ishita, beta, please try to join on time. You are late. Okay. So I was discussing now, this local DNS server will forward the request to the root DNS server. Let's suppose this root DNS server do not know what is this example.com, but this might return the another IP address of the TLS DNS server. Now, what is TLS DNS server? So this is the server that is being managed at the national level or the international level. Okay. So it will, if it does not have the answer to this for the .com domain, it will send an IP address that, okay, I do not have the exact IP address of example.com, but you can go to 1.3.1.2.3.4. So this local DNS server, what it will do, it will go to the .com server managed by the IANA, and it is again going to ask that, okay, do you know example.com? It will return the IP address, and ultimately you'll move to the different servers, and finally let's suppose you'll reach at the SLD DNS server which exactly has the IP address of the example.com. So this example.com will be returned, and this will ask to SLD DNS server that, hey, do you know what is example.com, what is an IP address? And this server will say that yes, I know what is this example.com, what the IP address of example.com is. And this is, by the way, the server of the example.com. Okay, so this is going to return this SLD DNS server is going to return the IP address of the example.com, let it be 9.10.11.12. So the moment this the managed by the domain registrar, and this can be the Amazon registrar or route 53, or it can be from the GoDaddy, it can be from anyone. Now once it has moved to the local DNS server, ultimately your local DNS server which is closer to your location, and by the way, this local DNS server, this needs to be physically closer to your location. So if we have all the services, even uh, route 53 is a global service, but you need to choose the region that is closer to your location. So this local DNS service is finally going to return the IP address to the client or the browser. Then I'll be able to log into the that particular the server, that is example.com, with the IP address 9.10.11.12. So this is how the things are going to work. Now coming on to Amazon Route 53. So there is a client, and there is going to be how this is. Now let's suppose you want to request one of the services that is being executed on my EC2 instance. Okay, so there is a EC2 instance. On this EC2 instance, let's suppose I have one of the service that is being executed. Of course, this is between the AWS cloud, and it has got one public IP address. So client will not be able to directly reach to IP address. First of all, client will route to the Amazon Route 53. This is a DNS server, and it will ask that, hey, do you know what is example.com? My Route 53 is going to respond that yes, the Route 50 uh, that the IP address for the EC2 instance is going to be 54, 22, 33, and 44. The moment client gets this IP address, then only it will be able to reach at the EC2 instance. So this is how the client and the EC2 instances are going to interact, not directly, but via Amazon Route 53, which is a DNS server, which is going to provide you the IP address for the whatever example.com or for whatever DNS server that you have been requesting for. Okay, so this is a highly available, scalable, fully managed, authoritative DNS. Now, why we call it as an authoritative DNS? Because beta, you can make a changes as per your requirement in this DNS table, which generally you cannot do, but you can make a changes in this DNS server and the DNS route 53. Okay, so this is authoritative. That means the customer can update the DNS record. So why this is authoritative? Because you can make changes and you can update the record into this. Now route 53 is also called as a domain registrar, ability to check the health of your resources, the only AWS service with the provided 100% availability to the service level. Okay, so it is going to have 100% availability that is guaranteed by AWS. No matter what, you'll have the 100% availability. Now this we have already discussed why route 53 is called as the 53, because 53 is reference to the traditional DNS port. तो जो पुराना बेटा चलता आ रहा था legacy port, so they have carry forwarded to the newer version. So 53 is the previous DNS port that they have used in the previous version, so that they have copied it in this point onwards. Now route 53 records, try to read it. बेटा ये हमने already discuss कर लिया. What stands for single A, what is a double A, so we have discussed this. Read it once. So how you want to route a traffic for a domain, how you want all the requests that are being originated from the different end users, how you want to route to a particular domain. So each record contains a domain and a subdomain name. For example, example.com. So this is a subdomain name. Record type, whether it is a IPv4 address or whether it is a IPv6 address, A or AA. Value of 12.1234567. This can be the value. Routing policies are there, how routing 53 responds to the queries, and TTL, the amount of time required for the cache as a DNS resolver. And forget about these names. So these are few of the protocols or the policies that are being required, but this is beyond the scope of the syllabus. Okay, so we'll try to, because this, of course, this is not a paid, this is not a free service. This requires a certain amount of money, $12 for an year. So I'll show you how to create and how to get a DNS, how to get the name of your website. Okay, but actually I'll not be making a payment here to get the values. Okay, otherwise we need to make a payment of $12 in order to get a domain name. So I'll show you how to do this, but not exactly. I'll not be following all the process. Now, route 53 record types. A stands for a maps to the host name of IPv4. Done. AA stands for the host name of IPv6. This is discussed. What is this C name? Maps for the host name to the another host name. So you'll have a google.com if it redirect to the another host name. So instead of IP address, if it one host name refer to another host name, we call it as a C name. Okay, the target is the domain name which must have a single A or AA record. So where you are going to refer, the secondary one needs to either have IPv4 or IPv6 address. Can't create a C name record for the top nodes or the DNS namespace, like for the zone epics. Example, you can't create an example.com, but you can create a www.example.com. That is being allowed. Okay, I think let's move on. Okay, let's read this slide as well. Okay, so there are a few slides. Then we'll move on to our management console, and I try to show you how you can have this Route 53. So Route 53 hosted zones. There are multiple zones in which this is routed, even though this is a global service, but you need to choose any of the particular zone. So container for records defined how the route traffic of a domain and the subdomains. How you're going to route the traffic for a particular domain or subdomain. Here you're going to, it is broadly classified to public domains and the private domains. Okay, so public hosted zones that are available to the normal people with the public addresses, so they can use this. Containers record that are specify how to route a traffic on the internet. So public domain names, application1.mypublicdomain.com. So if someone is going to have this particular the DNS name, they can log in, they can view it. The second one is the private hosted zones. Private hosted zones that are not available to the common public, which are hosted inside a virtual cloud VPC, and these are used for the internal reference within the cloud. Okay, so these are for the internal reference. So contain records that specify how you route traffic within one or more VPC. Okay, public private domain names. Okay, you pay 0.50 cents per month for the hosted zone if you are going to have a hosted zone. Now this is the examples given for the public hosted zone and the private hosted zone. The very major difference that you can observe here is, in private hosted zone everything is inside the VPC. So this is VPC and everything is written inside the VPC. But in the case of private public hosted zone, so client is going to request for the public hosted zone, and this public hosted zone can get anyone with the having access to S3 buckets or the cloud front or the instances or load balancer from within the VPC or outside the VPC. If anyone is having that particular 54.22.33.44, if someone has this IP address, they can access it. That's a public hosted zone. Otherwise, in a private hosted zone, so you need to have a private IP address. This is, suppose this is EC2 instance. Okay, now this is going to request for one of the examples is api.example.com or interval. Okay, so it is going to request here, get the IP address, and it is going to move the next IP address, request it, and ultimately it is going to connect to the database example database instance. Okay, so everything is going to happen within the same zone, private zone. Then coming on to the next one, Route 53 records time to live. TTL stands for time to live. Higher time to live, example 24 hours, less traffic on route 53, possibly outdated record. So this is the previous one if there's a lesser time. Low time to live, probably the 60 seconds, more traffic on the route and more money you need to pay. Okay, so this is just okay. So let's move on to our AWS management console. But let me log into the management console and share the screen. So this is ID password. Okay, so the moment you log in here, but the very first thing you need to do is you need to go to the route 53. Okay, so how we are going to register for the particular domain in our route 53. So we're going to start with that. Okay, so let's try to write here route 53. You will get it. Okay, now the moment you get route 53, let me plug in the charger. Battery is discharged. Okay, the moment you reach on route 53 dashboard, you'll see DNS management. So everything is zero, and domain registration is zero. DNS management is zero. You can go on here the registered domain or the pending request. Now, beta, in pending request, suppose you register a domain, it might take 12 hours to 24 hours for the domain to get registered. Okay, so if you have got any of the website and you want to get it registered, you'll get in a pending one. But if I'll move to the registered domain, you will find out no domain to display. So of course this is the paid one, but I try to show you how you can get the domain name. So you can click on the registered domain. Okay, okay, so it is written, so you can find out .com. It's $12 uh, per year. So if you're going to go for the .com or any other, so you can see the charges are present here. So I'll not be paying for this, but I can show you, and the no need to mention the name should be unique. So this I can write it Sahil unique website. Okay, so let's check if the availability. Of course, this is Sahil unique website. This is available, and you simply need to. This is the contact details. You need to enter the contact details, and verify the you need to verify the purchase. Okay, so contact details means you need to enter the card details and then you need to verify, click and purchase. So this is once we have got this, let's click on add to cart, and you will have this Sahel unique website.com. Register for 1 year. For how many years you wanted, subtotal will be $12. Monthly fee for the DNS management. You can click on continue. The moment you click on continue, you registered contact, first name, phone number, address, country, postal zip code, all the contact details, and verify and purchase. So of course I'll not be doing this as of now, but I have shown you if you want to get the domain name, you can get it from this very place. Okay. Mm, that's done. Let's move on to the next topic. So we'll be starting with another very important topic, that is going to be buckets, S3. But one of the very important section on the backbone of our AWS, that is going to be the buckets or the storages. Okay, we call it as a S3. So S3 stands for the storage and the data management. So if you have a data, how you're going to put it onto the how you can store it onto the AWS. But because of course AWS is a cloud, and that can be used for the management, for infrastructure, for storage, for processing, for all the things. Now we're going to start with another section, that is going to be the storage. Okay, so Amazon S3 is one of the main building blocks of AWS. So this is the very important concept of the AWS, that S3. Okay, so it is advertised as the infinitely scaling storage. So that means no matter how you want to scale it, you can, and you can store all the contents. And we cannot have a better example than Netflix. Now you can imagine the data that is being uploaded onto the Netflix on the daily basis, but yet it is going to scale up automatically. So that's a very big the advantage of the this S3. Okay, it is widely popular and deserves its own section. So you cannot merge it with any of the sections. So this is very popular. Many websites using Amazon S3 as the backbone. So like for a lot of businesses, the storage is going to be based upon Amazon S3. So that is the backbone. If they do not have this storage, their businesses might collapse. So many AWS services use Amazon S3 as an integration as well. So a lot of other services, like you can have the CloudFront or your DNS names, or you can have the load balancer. So a lot of other applications or the services also use this Amazon S3 buckets. Okay, so we'll have a step-by-step approach to S3. Now first of all, let's try to understand the overview of the bucket. Okay, so bucket means what you can store inside this bucket. So this is just for the reference purpose. So Amazon S3 allows people to store objects, and these objects will be referred to as a files in the buckets, which will be referred to as a directories. So I'll be most of the times, but I'll be referring it as a directories and the files. But for the simplicity, you can understand the files will be the simple objects which will be stored inside the buckets. Okay, so bucket must have the global uniquely name. So if you're going to create a bucket, like beta, you are going to create your Instagram name, so that needs to be globally unique. You two-person cannot have the same name. So in the same way, bucket, the name of the bucket that you're going to create, beta, globally in the AWS architecture, the name of the bucket should be the unique name. You cannot have the duplicate name. So buckets are they defined at the region level. So in what particular region you are, in that particular region you can define the bucket. So don't get confused and mixed upon this. Beta, S3 is a global services, but once you are defining the bucket, you need to choose the region within which region you are going to define it. Even if it is defined in particular region, but still it is a global service. Okay, so naming convention. So no uppercase, no underscore, 3 to 6 is the character long, not an IP address cannot be there, must start with a lower letter or a number. So these are the protocols, some rules and regulations that need to be kept in mind for creating the bucket. Now Amazon S3 overview objects. So what are objects? Objects are the files. ऑब्जेक्ट्स के यहाँ पे बेटा आप लिख लो, इफ यू डोंट गेट कंफ्यूज, ऑब्जेक्ट्स आर द फाइल्स दैट आर बी स्टोरिंग विद इन द बकेट्स, दीज आर द files. Now, files or the objects that you'll be storing inside the buckets or the directories have a key value. The key is the full path is s3 my bucket, or you can have it my file.txt. This is the key file, or you can put it inside the bucket within inside the folder. You can have the another folder, then you can have the file. But file name is mandatory. You need to store the object with the file name. You of course you can create the folder, nested folders you can create, but that still needs to have a file name. The key is composed of two things. One is the prefix and the object name. Okay, so S3 bucket will have the folders, then it is going to have the prefix and the object name. So this is green color is the object name, that is actually the file name, and then is the prefix on which particular path it is being stored. We call it as the prefix function. So there is no concept of directories within the buckets. Okay, although UI will trick you and think this is otherwise, but there is no concept of, AWS does not save it in the form of directories. Okay, just key with very long names contains the slashes. If it is a very long name, so it is going to create a slash like this. So even if it look like this is one bucket, inside this is another bucket, inside this we have a file. So this is not a bucket inside the bucket. So do not fall into this trick. UI will trick you on this. Okay, so you might feel this slash is going to be the different bucket. So just in case of very long names, it gets shortened up with the help of this slash, so it does not use any buckets. Okay, now Amazon S3 overview objects, it is going to be the values are contents of the body, and maximum object you can store is 5 terabyte of the object that you can store in a single shot. Okay, so maximum size of any of the object that you can upload and store is 5 terabyte. And in the management console we'll try to upload few things. We'll try to create a bucket and we'll try to upload few pictures into it. Okay, so that we'll do in a while. So if uploading more than 5 GB, then must use the multi-part upload. So at a single shot, this is the file that you can download. Metadata list of text, daily value stream or use metadata tags are Unicode values. Then you have the version ID. It's very important concept that I'll show you in the practical. What is version ID? What is the benefit of version ID? If versioning is enabled, so that means you can enable and disable. So this can be disabled by default. Beta jo hogi wo aapki hogi disabled. So this is by default is disabled. You can enable the versioning, and that is going to provide you with a lot of versions. Now, where, by the way, where this version ID is going to come in hand. So let's suppose beta you upload one, let's suppose you upload one picture. Okay, you try to again upload the same picture, but the second picture that will be uploaded, it will have the different version ID as compared to the previous version ID. Okay, so that means if something is going to be wrong, so you'll have all the data that you're going to upload will be associated with the one particular version ID, so that you can restore to the correct version if required. Okay, then the next one is versioning. How you can get this versioning? So you can version your files in AWS 16 by default. If you do not version it, मैंने बेटा आपको बोला था कि this is enabled and disabled. Now by default, if it is disabled, in the starting, let's suppose by default it is disabled and you are uploading something. So in that case, version ke aage it will be written as null. So no version will be there if it is disabled. So it will be written null. But once you enable this, you will have a hexadecimal number that is will be called as the version ID. Okay, so you can version your files from Amazon S3. It is enabled at the bucket level. Okay, same key override will increment the version. So same key means, so if you are going to upload the same data, it will increment the versions, and this is for the simplicity 1 2 3, not exactly versioning. Beta cannot versioning does not happen in this 1 2 3 4 5 form. It happens in a hexadecimal number. So this is just for the sake of understanding. For the understanding purpose, the versioning is written as 1 2 3 4. But the important point that you need to understand here is that it will be an incremental versioning. You will have the previous version as well, and you will have the new version as well. So it's the best practice for the version of your bucket protects against unintentional deleted. Okay, so that's the benefit of the versioning. If you delete the versions, then it will be still available for the restoring. ability to restore the version. I'll show you practically how you can restore it. So easy rollback to the previous version. This is also important. Any file that is not version prior to enabling it is going to have what? Null. ये मैंने आपको last slide में बताया that if it is disabled and you upload something and versioning is not enabled, so it will display none value. So suspending versioning does not delete the previous version. So if you suspend it, so ऐसा नहीं है कि आपके पास version ID थे, then you disable it or you suspend it, and all the data is going to be deleted. So still it is going to be present in there. Okay, so this is done. Encryption for objects. So we'll see this in a while. So let's try to create a bucket, and within that bucket let's try to upload few of the contents. Okay, so let's move on to our management console. Because simply the first thing that you need to do is you simply need to type S3. Okay, so you'll have S3 services, very important one. So click on S3. Okay, so you'll reach at the dashboard, and within this dashboard you just need to click on the create bucket. Okay, so S3 store and retrieve any amount of data from anywhere. So this is a cloud storage. Okay, how it works, this is present here as well. So let's create a bucket. Okay, so now you need, I have told you already, the bucket name that you're going to create, it needs to be globally unique. So whatever name you are going to give it here, so it needs to be globally unique. So now moreover there are a few constraints as well that you need to keep in mind. Lowercase, uppercase, do not start with the IP address. तो कुछ rules हैं for the bucket naming. You click on this one and you will be redirected to, okay, you will be redirected to this particular bucket naming rules. So bucket naming must be 3 to 63 character. Name cannot consist of lowercase, uppercase, and all the things that you have studied. So these are mentioned here. So let's move on to the, let's move to the this bucket name. Okay, so if I'll write the simply, it's suppose test, if I'll write here and if I'll click on this, let's see if I'm able to create this. You'll find out bucket with the same name already exists, so you cannot write the same name. Okay, so I need to create the new name, demo.sahil s3. I think this will be unique, demo.sahil.s3 bucket 2020. Okay, so this is of course going to be, there are very less chances that any bucket will be mentioned with this name. So now I have told you already, but you, if you'll see here, this is written global. So S3 is the global service, you will find it. This is a global service, but still you need to choose a region, the nearest possible region wherever your current location is, so that you have the less latency. So I'm going to choose the region, AWS region, Asia Pacific, Mumbai, AP South one. Okay, so AP South one, this is a default one. Then the next point is the region that we have selected. Let's move on and see the next setting, and I'll keep it as it is. So as of now, I'm going to block the public setting for this bucket, keep it as it is, and then let's see the versioning. Okay, so next point that we need to see is the versioning, and it is written bucket versioning. You will see this is disabled by default. Okay, so I'm not going to do anything here, so I'm going to just move and create a bucket. Now you'll see successfully created a bucket. And so demo S3 Sahil bucket 2020 created, bucket objects not public. So this is not public. Creation date is there. Okay. Now when I click on demo S3 bucket, now better you'll find lot of options. Objects are there, properties are there. You can give the permissions are there, metrics are there, management is there, access points are there. All these are the important points that we'll be understanding. But if we'll click on, simply click on the objects. Okay. Now simply click on the objects, you will find out there's an upload option. Okay. So by the way, beta here you'll find buckets, a region. Acha. Info. Hmm, चलो ठीक है. So this is the upload option is there. So we have nothing here now. Okay. We can upload the data from here. Let's click on the upload one. Okay. So we can click on upload. Now you can drag and drop files and folders you want to upload here, or choose add files or add folders. So I will click on the add file. Let's suppose to upload this. Okay. So this is, you will get this, the name of the file is car.jpg, image is there, and the size is also mentioned, and destination is written S3 demo file S3 bucket 2020, which is globally unique. Within this bucket, this image is going to be uploaded. Okay. Destination details. Okay, now you'll see the bucket versioning. Since I have not enabled it, this is the disabled default encryption. This is disabled, and this is the next topic. After practicing this one, we'll start with the encryption. So object logged, all the settings are here. So I'm not going to change any of the setting here. Okay. So let's move and upload. I'm going to upload this. You'll see in destination is this one, file is uploaded, and you have got this one. Okay. So let's close this, and you have got one of the object which is present here. You click on this one image, you'll get all the things. Now object overview, properties, permissions, and the versions are there. Now right now we do not have any of the version, but when you click on the properties, owner, AWS region is there, modified size, and S3 URL. And this is important, Amazon's resource name ARN. But you can click on, now the thing that you need to understand is you can view this image whatever you have uploaded from this one, or you can copy this URL. So there are two ways to view this image. Okay. Now the one of the ways from internally from the AWS, and the second one is using the IP address. So if I click on here, and if I'll simply click on open, so you'll see it is written as open. And if I'll click on here, so you'll see I am able to, this picture is being displayed. I have simply clicked on open. Now, so when I move back, Peter, when I move back, I simply clicked on this open, and I'm able to get this image. The another way is you can copy the IP address. You can open it from here, and you're able to open it. Next time, what you can do is you can copy this IP address from here, and you can open. So let me try to copy this. So object URL copied, and I'm going to paste it, and you will find, okay, so you'll find you will have this kind of output you will be getting. Okay. So can you read this? Is what is this written? So error, it is written access denied is what we are getting. Okay, this is what access denied we are getting. Now but there's an important point to see here. What is that important point? That when I'll click on this open from here, I can see that image of the car. Okay, so if I'll click on open from here, I can see the image of car. But when I'll copy this URL, this IP address or URL, when I'll copy this, I'll get a message. I'll get this message that access is denied. So access denied. Why is it so? Better because the point you need to understand here is that when you click on this open, but what it does internally, but it is going to be getting the image from this URL. Okay, तो वो इंटरनली यहां से आपका इमेज उठाएगा. फर्क क्या है बेटा इसमें और इसमें, क्या फर्क है? So if you assess it from this point, within this there will be my AWS credentials including. So I am saying to AWS that, hey, I want to see this image of car.jpg. I am going to click on this one, and within this I have got my credentials, AWS account credentials. So you can authenticate me and you can open the image. Okay, so you that is why we get the image from this particular link. When I click on this open, I get the link of the I can see the image. But what actually happens in this particular link? Beta, this is the public URL, and for this you need to have the bucket to be public. So जब तक बेटा आपका ये जो bucket है, ये bucket कहाँ गया आपका? This bucket that I have created, sahil.version.2022, if your bucket is private, so this is the bucket, but this is the bucket demo s3 sahil s3 bucket 22. Because this bucket is private, so from private bucket, if I'm trying to access any of the contents using this URL, then it is going to show me that access is going to be denied. तो तब मेरे को ये जो यहाँ से जो access denied का ये जो option है, I'm going to get this. Beta, are you able to understand this? Whatever I'm trying to explain you, are you getting these points? Are you getting these points? Am I audible? Okay. Okay. So this point is done. How you can get the image? Okay. The next point. Let's try to understand the next point. Okay. Let's go to the buckets, and inside this bucket. So I am inside the bucket demo Sahil S3, and now I'm going to upload. And within this upload, I'm now instead of file, I'm going to create a folder. Cancel, add folder. Let's suppose create a folder. Okay, so I'm going to create a folder. Let it be, the name is going to be images. Now don't get confused कि सर इसका नाम यूनिक नहीं है, because beta the name of the bucket within which you are putting the content, it needs to be unique. Folder का नाम you can keep it anything, so that doesn't matter. Okay, images, server side encryption disabled. Let's create a folder. Okay, so we have one of the file, one of the object that I've uploaded, and then I have got the folder also with the name images. You click on the images folder. Now you are inside the beta bucket inside this images folder, and now you can upload something within this folder. Let's try to upload, add file. Let's try to open the landscape. So this is disabled, and I can upload it. So if I've uploaded this file destination within this bucket, you can see this is the landscape. And if I'll open this, now you'll see this, the image that I've uploaded, but this is present inside the bucket, inside the folder, and the name of the image is present here. Okay, done. It's done. Now if you'll move to the bucket, bucket has two things. And if you want to delete anything, you can click on, let's suppose if I want to delete this, you can click on delete. So if you are going to delete the folder, and deleting, it's written deleting a specified object can't be undone. Okay, objects within the specified folder will be deleted. So if I'm going to delete the images, within images I have one of the object with the landscape, so that is going to be deleted. So what I need to do is, so it is the permanent operation, so permanently delete. So if I need to delete this permanently, so I need to write it here. So I'm going to write it permanently delete, and it is going to delete this permanently for me. Okay. Successfully deleted the objects. So no object here. So let's close this and move to the bucket. Now within the bucket you have only one file, that is your uh, the JPEG file. Okay, so that is the one. Now next thing is versioning. Let's try to understand the versioning. So we had discussed versioning as well. So to enable the versioning better, you'll have the object properties permission matrices. Simply go to the properties, and you will find here options, and the very first option you will find it is a bucket versioning. So bucket versioning is disabled. Okay, and MFA is disabled, so you can have the edit here. Okay, so bucket versioning, it is written suspended, so you click on enable. So once you click on enable, so now better, after enable bucket versioning, you might need to upload your life cycle rules to manage the previous versions of the objects. Why you need to re-upload the versions? Because बेटा अब मैंने जो वर्जनिंग I have enabled it right now. इससे पहले I have already upload one of the document with the name tar. Okay, so my versioning will not be applicable to the previous data that I've already uploaded. It will be applicable to the data only that I have that I'll upload after this enabling. Okay, so that is what it says. So you can click on save changes. Okay, so this is enabled. Go to the objects. Have you observed any change? Let's see your attentiveness. बेटा पहले के just give me a second. Give me a second, बेटा. Okay, so this is my screen, and I have got a bucket, and I have removed the another one. Okay, now in order to enable the versioning, better we just need to go on to the properties. Okay, we need to go on to the properties. go to properties, and within properties the very first option you will find there is bucket versioning. So can you find bucket versioning, and by default it is suspended, so that's not there. So click on edit and click on enable, and you will find it after enabling the bucket versioning you need to update your lifecycle rules to manage the previous versions. क्योंकि previous versions पे क्या आएगा, so it will be written null because you are going to enable the versioning after uploading few of the documents. So not all the documents will be associated with the versioning, but that is why it is written you need to update your life cycle. So let's keep it enabled and let's save the change. Okay, so you'll have the versioning is enabled, and this is the object. So beta, I was asking you, can you point out any difference in the previous screen and now? Let's see how attentive you are. Tell me, are you able to see any difference? Beta, can you point out any difference? Yes, try. Show version button enabled. Yes, exactly. So show versions, you can see the toggle switch is there, but it was not visible in the previous screen. But now since we have got the versions enabled, so you will find out one of the button here, which is show versions. Okay. Now once you click on show versions, you will go to you'll go to the versions and you'll be able to see. Okay. So can you see? But it is written version ID. Last time this was not there. Now this car.jpg, even though versioning is enabled, so this is still showing the null. Why so? Because I have uploaded this image before I enable the version. So because of this reason, it is still showing the null. So what we can do is we can upload another file just to see if it works. Let's try to upload the landscape JPEG image and uploaded. Close this interface, move to the show versions. You will find out Peter this is null, but in front of this landscape, so automatically it has assigned one of the version. Okay, one of the version is there. So I'm going to upload few more things. So let's try to upload the same thing. But I'm going to upload the same image of the landscape. So if I'm going to upload the same image again, you will find out a new version to this is going to be associated with it. So you'll find out whether this is landscape. Within landscape, I've got a new one, and but this time I've got a different version. So that's a beauty of it. So even if something is going to be wrong, so it is still going to be associated, and you'll get it the time at which is going to be done. So it is 7 o'clock 3 minutes or 22 seconds, 7 o'clock 3 minutes and 57 seconds. So this is the newer one. Okay. Let's upload one image for the car as well. Then I'll show you once we delete this what's going to happen. So another very interesting thing, I'll upload this as well. Show versions. Now you'll see but the car, the original car that I've uploaded, so it was not associated with any of the version, but car that I uploaded right now, it is associated one of the we call it one of the versions. Okay. Now if I'll disable this and if I'll remove one of the point, now let's suppose I disable this and I have got only two images because the rest are the multiple versions and their copy. So disable this one. We got two images. Let's suppose I delete this landscape. Okay, let's suppose I delete this landscape. Okay, to delete this, type delete. So I'm going to copy this and delete. Okay, deleting a specified object as a delete. This is important, beta isko dhyan se padho. Deleting a specified object adds, this is going to add something which is delete marker to them. That means even if I'm going to click on delete, because this landscape will not be visible to me, but eventually this will not be finally deleted, because you will find it here. We only have a delete button. Here is we do not write the permanently delete. Okay, so even if you delete a specified object, it adds a delete marker to them. Okay, so I'm simply going to click on delete objects for to so that we do not accidentally delete it. So if I'm going to delete this, now you'll observe within the bucket I only have one image. Landscape I have already deleted. So but if you go to the versions, better you'll find out this landscape, it is associated with the delete marker, and even this marker is having one of the version ID. Okay, so this delete marker is already having one of the version ID. That means it might not be, if I'm going to do this, so it might not be visible to you right now. You might feel that okay, you have deleted the landscape image, but when you move on to the versions, you will still find the landscape is present. Along with that, it is associated with the delete marker. Okay, so how you can delete this? You want to permanently delete this, click on this, delete. And deleting specific objects can't be undone. You cannot undo this. And now you'll see permanently delete this from the versions history. So I'm going to permanently delete this object. So click on copy and click on paste. Delete the objects. Successfully deleted the objects. Now this is gone from the versions as well. Now you will see that it is present here, but you are going to get the delete marker and the landscape. One of the images is gone. So we had two of the images for the landscape, but right now we had only one. Okay, now why you are getting another landscape? Because beta we have the one landscape already with us. Now if you remove this as well, so ultimately you'll have only one image in here. So permanently delete this and toggle off karo. Now you'll see only one image is there. Okay, so this is how you can add, upload, attach to it the, we call as the version IDs, delete this, permanently delete, temporary delete. So that is what we have seen as of now. But any doubt up to this point? Okay, so take bit of 5 to 7 minutes break and come back, then we'll discuss the next concept. Okay, so let's continue. The versionings we have done already. So we have done versions already, and let me move to the PPT and discuss a few very important points. The encryption, then we'll execute it. Okay. Versioning is done. This is the versioning. Okay, this is important. Beta S3 encryption for objects. So whatever data you're going to put onto the cloud, suppose you have some confidential data. So you will be, of course, you will be looking for some encryption mechanism that can save, that can protect your data, whatever data you're going to put in there. Okay. So there are four methods of encrypting a S3 object. SSE S3 encrypts. So this S3 objects using the keys handled and managed by the AWS. Very important one. SSE S3 managed by the AWS. These are the two important points you need to understand. Second is SSE KMS, in which you the keys are required and you need to manage your keys yourself. Leverage AWS key management service to manage the encryption keys. Okay. KMS, that means the keys are required for the management. Then SSE, we are going to have C, when you want to manage your own encryption keys. And the last one is client side encryption. Of course, we are not going to deal with the client side encryption because I have a car image and I have a landscape image. I have not encrypted the image and uploaded it. My images are not encrypted, so I'm going to exclude this option because I'm not going to encrypt my image, but I want to encrypt on the server side. Okay, so it is important to understand which one are adapted to which situations for the exams that we'll see. Up to now you need to understand, suppose we have the SSE S3 which is managed by the AWS itself. Now beta encryption using keys handled and the managed by the Amazon S3. So in S3, AWS itself is going to manage the keys. Object is encrypted server side. That's we know already. An object will be encrypted server side. AES 256. This is an encryption mechanism. Okay. RSA encryption is there. AES 256 bytes encryption is there. So the encryption mechanism, and must set header X AMZ server side encryption AES 256. We'll see it in a practical how we can set AES 256 encryption. Suppose there is an object, and if it is using HTTP protocol or HTTPS plus within the header, within the URL, you need to specify the object plus the manage the data key. So two things are required to be sent in the URL. Then encryption mechanism is going to be performed. Then only the data will be stored within the bucket. There is an object, beta, this is the URL. Even if it is coming from the HTTP or HTTPS, and header, within this header you need to provide the key as well along with the data. Then only encryption is going to be performed, and finally it is going to be stored in the bucket. Similarly, SEE KMS. Okay, KMS is the customer master key. So these are the different keys that are required to be managed. KMS encryption using keys handled and managed by the KMS keys masters. Okay, advantages are it can control plus audit trials are there. So different advantages there. Mechanism will remain same, object plus key encryption and stored it within the bucket. The only difference is the keys are not going to be managed by the AWS, but instead it will be managed by the KMS. The third one is the client side provided. So client side object plus client side key, data HTTPS only, secured channel only, data key in the header, and ultimately it is going to be stored in the bucket. So these are the three different types of secure encryptions that are going to be performed there. Okay, let's try to see this. Before in the transit, we are not going to start the transit one. We'll see how you can perform the encryption if the data you're going to store it onto the AWS. Okay, so let me upload. So let me share the screen first of all. So I'm going to share the screen once again. But whatever encryption we are going to perform on the objects within the S3 bucket, it can be either with the AES 256 or it can be with the KMS, in which the keys needs to be managed separately. So we'll see all the options. Okay, so there let me upload few files, add a files, landscape, upload, upload, uploaded successfully. Close this, and now there are multiple options by which you can do this. Now you can go to the properties in the bucket versioning, but you will find it the default encryptions. I'll come to the default encryptions afterwards. First of all, let's try to upload a single file. Okay, now encryptions better, there are two ways to apply. Either you can apply on single files, आप तो एक एक फाइल के ऊपर ही अप्लाई कर सकते हैं, or you can apply by default encryption. So we'll see both of them. So first of all, let's try to add any of the files. फिर से बेटा let's try to upload the car, and let's try to upload the landscape. Open. This is done, and when you have this, click on this landscape image, click on the destination details, and you will find it the default encryption is disabled. Okay, default description is disabled. Go to the permissions, properties, and you'll find it server side encryption settings. Server side encryption, it is written do not specify encryption key, specify an encryption key. Okay, now when you write the specify encryption key, so there are two options. You will find it SSE S3, which is default managed by the AWS, or AWS service management key divided by KMS. So as of now, I'm going to click on the S3 managed by this. Click on upload. You have uploaded successful. So now if you'll move to the images landscape, because this is the landscape, and you will find it server side encryption, default encryption enabled. Okay, so this is, and the server side encryption is Amazon S3 managed key. So this is one, and let's move on to the bucket. Let's try to upload one, and let's try to upload the car this time, but I'm going to use a different so go to the properties and specify encryption mechanism. Instead of SSE 3 bucket beta, this time let's try to encrypt it with SSE KMS. So when you click on KMS, you will find the options for the KMS key, that whether you want to have the managed key, which will be AWS/S3, which is the easiest one to remember, or you can choose from the AMS keys, Amazon AWS keys, or you can get it from the ARN, Amazon resource name. So you can get it from here. You can specify the here name, or you can choose it, the create a key, you can create it yourself, or you can simply use the key managed by the AWS. So if you are going to write SSE KMS encryption mechanism, you can choose any of these three. So I'm going to keep it the default one, AWS/S3. So with this, you can also upload the image. So image is already uploaded. So we have got the pretty much images. Let's go to the versions. You will see we have got all the here. Now we have got this, but we have got two landscape. The previous landscape, if I click on this, you will find it will not be default encryption is disabled. ये previous version है बेटा. So this is the previous version. But on the landscape, if on the landscape I'll click on the new version, so this is the newer version, and you will find here this is default encryption is enabled by the Amazon S3 SSE S3, because this is the landscape. But if you'll move on to the cars, if we move on to the car, the latest version of these two previous version are not encrypted. The latest one, if you'll click on here and if you'll check the encryption, beta encryption is enabled, server side encryption using KMS, and the KMS key that is being provided is this one. So this is the key that is being provided. Okay, so this is a key provided. Now up to now, whatever we have seen, beta, every time you create any of the object, you can associate it. Like I click on the image, I can add anything, and after that I can choose which encryption mechanism I want to perform. This is one of the way. Or the another way is if you can have a default encryption, that every time if you do not want to specify, you can simply go to the default encryption. Now in the default encryption, you will find here it is still disabled. You can individually single you can upload the encryption, but if you look onto this default encryption, it is still disabled. You can click on edit and you can enable this. Okay, now once you enable this, now how out of these two options, every time whether you want to use SSE S3 default encryption by AWS or you want to use the KMS, so you need to choose. I am saying that I want to choose the Amazon S3 SSE this encryption. Okay, so this is a default encryption. I'm going to enable this. The moment you have this default encryption enabled, now let's go to the objects. Let's upload any file, add a file. Let's upload a car once again. Okay, and when you click on this time, you click on the destination detail, beta you will find the default encryption this time is enabled. पहले यहाँ पे क्या लिख रहा था? Disabled, but now it is enabled. So no need to anything. You can simply upload. I have not done anything. I've simply uploaded it. And when you click on the versions, the very latest version that I have created is this one, and you click on the last version, previous version, you'll find it default encryption enabled, and it is server side encryption using SSE S3. Okay, so this is how you can get this. But are you able to understand these points? How we have got this encryption? So abhi half of the encryption is done. Okay, so we need to discuss another half, how we can add the rules that to how we can apply the rules to a bucket. Okay, now I want to apply the encryption to the bucket. This is the single object. I have applied the encryption, but now I want, okay, if anyone wants to upload anything to my bucket, so my bucket needs to be encrypted. Okay, अगर bucket पे encryption नहीं है, then what is going to happen? And if it is there, then what is going to happen? So that is what we are required to see. So for that purpose, let's try to see. Let's go to properties. Event object lock bucket permissions. Okay, yeah, now this is the point. But the next thing, you need to go to the bucket and move to the permission section. Okay, now when you move to the previous section, you will find a bucket policy. Okay, bucket policy written in the JSON document provide access to the object stored in the bucket. Okay, so how you can have the access to the bucket documents? So if you are following certain rules and regulations which will be written in the form of a JSON document, then only you'll be able to access the objects that are stored inside the bucket. If you are not going to follow those, you will not be able to get the documents which are stored in the bucket. So bucket policies do not apply to the object owned by the other accounts. Done. No policy here. Right now we do not have any of the policy, and you will have the using S3 block policy SS if you want to read anything. So you can click on the learn more, and it is going to land you on the AWS page. You will be landing on this particular page, and policies you can read, resource, action, effect, and this is the kind of JSON document that we are trying to write now. ठीक है, तो इस तरीके का बेटा, this is the policy, JSON policy that is being written, that we need to have. Let's move to our page. Okay, now okay, now in order to write this JSON policy, but what we simply need to do is bucket policy, go to edit, click on edit, and you'll get the example. So policy version is this one, statement, statement ID, statement one, principle, what you want to do, effect you want to allow, what action you want to perform, what resource. This is a default one that you're getting. Okay, so you can click on the policy examples that are existing policy, click on the policy examples. Okay, again redirected to the another AWS page, so you can read this. This is the policy, how you can generate the policy. So getting permission to multiple accounts, granting read only permission, limiting access. So these are all the points, but we are trying to create our own policy. So how we can create our own policy? So in that case, beta, you simply need to click on the policy generator. Okay, I'm going to click on the policy generator. So the moment I click on policy generator, I will be redirected to this particular page. So I'll be redirected to this page. Now you can select the policy type, which type of policy you want to have. So S3 bucket, VPC, IAM policy, SNM policy, you policy that you want to derive. But see, I do not know exactly how to write the JSON document, and for that purpose, I can move to this interface, and once we are going to specify all the settings, this is automatically going to create one of the policy for me. Okay, so let's going to write all the important points here. So this is going to be S3 bucket policy, and statement to add statement is the formal description of single permission. See a description element. Okay, effect is whether I want to allow something or I want to deny. Now I'm going to write, I'll be writing two policies. पहली policy मैं बोलूंगा allow करने के लिए कि which people I am trying to allow to assess the object from the bucket. कौन कौन से लोग assess कर सकते हैं. Okay, so within this principle, better you need to search within this principle. You need to search. No, you need to write principle is, yes, principle is where do you want to apply this one policy. So this will be applied to all the star means to apply all the objects that are being present inside here. Okay, then we need to specify AWS service. So I'll be start AWS services S3 actions, what actions I want to perform. So you can type star or you can write it all actions. No, I want to perform S3, go to S section. Put objects. So I'll try to write put objects. Okay. So if not working, try to write backslash. So ARN should follow the following format: bucket name, key name, use a comma separated, and one of the we have got. Now we need to specify Amazon resource name ARN. So this will be getting from our previous one. So let me share this tab instead. So the next thing, beta, you need to get the number bucket ARN number. So can you specify here the moment I'm trying to create the bucket policy, you'll get a bucket ARN number. Copy this from here and Amazon ARN number, paste this here. Okay, so I'm going to paste this here. Do not beta forget, do not forget, once you copy this here, now where do you want to apply this? Now you need to apply to slash star, means to all the objects that is present. So slash and star, that is required. Okay, so you need to write it here. So this is one of the policy that I want to provide and assess. Action is put, which I've selected. Put object needs to be selected. If I've selected put object, yes, put object is selected. Okay, so add conditions. Conditions optional. Condition, what I want to do here. So conditions, let's choose null, and we need to choose here server side encryption. Server side, so this is S3X AMZ server side encryption. Okay, so server side encryption we need to choose, and the value that I'll be writing here is true. So if it needs to be, conditions are the restrictions or details about the statement. So if the condition is null and the value is true, everything is correct. So S3 is server side encryption. If it is true, add a statement. Okay, so one statement effect is to principle applied to all the values. Effect, you need to deny it when you put the object. If it is not in this case, if the value is going to be null, server side encryption agar applicable hai, so this needs to be there. Okay, so let's try to apply one more. This is my start action put object ARN number. Let me copy the ARN number. And backslash star, add conditions. If next one I can apply is uh, string not equals. Let's try to apply the string not equals, and the key value is again going to be server side encryption, and the value is going to be, if it is not AES 256, that is our encryption mechanism. AES 256. Add condition. So string if it not equal, if AES 256 encryption is not applied, then it is of course going to deny. Once we have written all these conditions, you can simply go to generate a policy. So generate a policy, you will observe the policy is already there. Policy name, version, statement, statement ID, action, S3 put object, effect should be deny, resource this much, condition null, and the same you have got effect as deny. So all the JSON document is ready. Simply copy this one from here and paste it here. Okay, so I have written the JSON document. Now once the JSON document is written, simply paste it and click on save changes. Successfully edited bucket policy. Okay, so bucket policy is edited already. It is applicable. Now let's try to go to the bucket. Okay, so let's try to upload one of the document. So add files, you can click on any file. Let's suppose I'm going to add a landscape. See if it is working or not. So properties, so let it be. It is written do not specify any encryption key. So should I be able to upload this? So you can see it is working absolutely fine. So it uploading is failed. So uploading is failed. If I am not going to have any of the encryption mechanism here, so it is going to fail. So if I need to click on here, failed the access, denied, reason is you don't have permission to upload files or this folder. So this is denied. So AWS, the policy, the bucket policy that we were trying to create, it is working absolutely fine. Now let's try to have the another one. बेटा एक और अपलोड करने की कोशिश करते हैं. Let's try to close this and let's try to upload, and this time I'm going to apply the mechanism. Let's suppose this is landscape, open, and properties. I specify encryption and use the default one. Okay, so you can choose the default encryption, or you can choose the override the default one. The default कौन सी थी बेटा? SSC. Okay, so you can have this, and let's try to upload this. It should be good to go. Yes, encryption mechanism is applied, the SSC default encryption is applied, and we are good to go, and we have uploaded the image successfully. So this is done. Okay, now let's try to upload once again. this time let's try to use the different encryption and see we are able to upload. We should not be able to upload with any other encryption mechanism. So let's see, there should be an error. अगर मैं किसी और के साथ अप्लाई करता हूँ बेटा, ओवरराइड करने के बाद अगर S3 मैनेज ये नहीं करता, if I'm going to use this one, okay, so let's try to upload with this. So see, I am not able to upload. So that means it is working only with the JSON document, the policy that I've written. It's working only with that case. So if you don't want to beta write this the entire JSON document, if you find it difficult, so let me Google this and show you from where you can get this policy. Okay, so you can simply type S3 bucket policy deny encryption. Okay, so even if you are going to do this, how to prevent upload to unencrypted objects, click on this, move down, and not this, not this. We'll find the, see, JSON document, but this is the entire JSON document. Okay, so the JSON document is present here. You can get it from here as well. So this is also one of the place to get this JSON document. So up to now we have seen how we can have this execution internally. Okay, so we have not yet seen how we can, okay, if I need to close this, what is still left in this beta inside this परमिशंस के अंदर, यस, अभी ये जो पोर्शन है बेटा, दिस इज स्टिल पेंडिंग, block public access bucket setting. So we have not seen how we can assess this bucket externally. This is what we have been doing internally, but we are still left with, okay, I've not shared the screen. Okay, give me a second. So what I've been trying to say is, I hope my screen is visible. So I've been trying to say is we have done with few of the things, but still what we are left with is block public access. How we can have this access of the bucket publicly. So it's written block all public access. This is on. It is going to block all the public access. Okay. So we need to discuss this point as well. Okay. But I think this is sufficient for today. Let me take an attendance. But don't leave, don't leave.